Ladies and gentlemen, archivist here. If you are currently reading the headlines about a diplomatic spat between Washington and Copenhagen, you are looking at the puppet show. You are watching the shadows on the wall while the building burns down around you. Stop looking at the press releases about sovereignty and international law. They are distractions. They are noise designed to keep you calm while the architects of the New World Order seize the foundation. Look at the ice. Look at the geology. Look at the periodic table. The data does not care about your treaties. It does not care about the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It only cares about physics. Here is the forensic data that the mainstream financial press is too terrified to print. $2.5 trillion. That is not a random estimate. That is the specific absolute replacement cost of the advanced NATO weapon systems that effectively become paperweights the moment Beijing turns off the tap on heavy rare earth elements. We are talking about the guidance systems for Tomahawk missiles. We are talking about the permanent magnet motors in the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. We are talking about the Virginia-class submarines. $2.5 trillion of American military hardware is currently entirely dependent on a supply chain that is 90% controlled by a strategic adversary. This is not a vulnerability. This is a suicide pact. And the bill has just come due. The events of January 16th were not a negotiation. They were a hostile takeover bid for the survival of the Western military-industrial complex. When the Danish Prime Minister refused to come to the table, she did not just reject a real estate deal. She triggered a kinetic sequence that will rewrite the map of the Northern Hemisphere. The gray rhino is dead. We are now witnessing a phase shift. The old world, where allies asked politely for permission, is gone. We have entered the era of resource realism. And in this era, possession is not 9/10 of the law. Possession is the only law. Let us clear the decks. We need to strip away the diplomatic pleasantries and look at the raw, bloody mechanics of what is actually happening. Evidence number one, the geological imperative. Greenland is not a country in this equation. It is a geological vault. Underneath that ice sheet lies the largest undeveloped deposit of neodymium and dysprosium on the planet. These are not just rocks. They are the vitamins of modern warfare. You cannot build a high-performance electric motor without them. You cannot build a wind turbine without them. And you certainly cannot build a hypersonic missile without them. For the last 20 years, the West has been happy to let China process these dirty, toxic elements. We outsourced the pollution. We outsourced the cancer rates. And in doing so, we outsourced our national sovereignty. We allowed the Chinese Communist Party to wrap its fingers around the windpipe of the American defense industry. Now, the Department of Defense has reclassified this dependency. It is no longer a supply chain issue. It is now officially a critical national security threat. That is bureaucratic code for we are authorized to use force. Evidence number two, the death of Article 5. The Danish Prime Minister said yesterday that a hostile U.S. takeover of Greenland would mean, quote, the end of NATO, end quote. She is right, but not in the way she thinks. NATO was built on the assumption that the Atlantic Alliance was more important than national interest. That assumption died the moment the first Chinese export restriction hit the port of Shanghai. When the choice is between honoring a 70-year-old treaty with a European ally or securing the materials necessary to fight the next world war, Washington will not hesitate. Washington will not blink. The alliance is a luxury. The magnets are a necessity. We are watching the cannibalization of the Western alliance system. The United States is no longer the guarantor of global security. It is a desperate predator, cornered by its own lack of foresight, turning on its smaller friends to feed its own industrial hunger. This is not betrayal. This is thermodynamics. A system under stress will always sacrifice its periphery to save its core. Denmark is the periphery, the Raytheon assembly line in Tucson. Arizona is the core Evidence number 3, the kinetic escalation. President Trump's language has shifted. He is no longer talking about a purchase. He is citing economic security. He is using the language of imminent threat. The technical talks in Washington were rejected flatly by the Danes yesterday. Do you think the U.S. military will simply accept no for an answer? Do you think the Pentagon will allow its stockpile of precision-guided munitions to run dry because a politician in Copenhagen wants to maintain the moral high ground? We are moving toward a scenario of kinetic diplomacy. If the checkbook does not work, the aircraft carrier group we are looking at a potential blockade. We are looking at the forced extraction of resources under the guise of protection. We are seeing the return of the Monroe Doctrine. But this time, it extends to the Arctic Circle. Who are the bag holders in this scenario? The first bag holder is the European Union. They are watching their security umbrella evaporate. They are realizing that their entire green transition is built on Chinese minerals and American military protection. Both are being withdrawn. They are standing naked in the freezing cold. The second bag holder is the ESG investor. The environmental, social, and governance crowd. They told you not to invest in mining. They told you it was dirty. They told you to buy tech stocks and carbon credits. They were wrong. They were catastrophically, criminally wrong. While they were busy counting their diversity scores, the real money was moving into the dirt. If you are holding Danish sovereign debt, you are holding a claim on a nation that is about to be humiliated. If you are holding European wind energy stocks that depend on Chinese supply chains, you are holding a zero. Who are the winners? The winners are the entities that deal in physical reality. The winners are the companies that can dig a hole in the ground and pull out the building blocks of a cruise missile. This brings us to the protocol. This is the resource denial protocol. It is active immediately. Rule number 1, ignore the boundaries. Stop looking at maps drawn in 1945. They're obsolete. Look at the geological surveys. Capital will flow to where the resources are, regardless of whose flag is flying above them. Rule number 2, long the sword, short the shield. The companies that build the weapons are now the most important strategic assets on the planet. I am talking about Raytheon Technologies. I am talking about Lockheed Martin. These are not stocks. These are deputized arms of the state. When the U.S. government seizes the Greenland deposits, who do you think will get the contract to extract and process the ore? It will not be a startup in Silicon Valley. It will be the heavy hitters of the defense industrial base. Specifically, look at the ticker RTX. Look at LMT. These companies are effectively government agencies with a dividend. They are the only entities capable of converting raw dysprosium into kinetic power. Rule number 3, the Arctic premium. You need to find the Western mining companies that have the expertise to operate in the Arctic, not the ones in Africa, not the ones in South America, the ones that know how to break ice. Look at the Canadian miners. Look at the Australian operators with Arctic leases. These are the buyout targets. These are the companies that will be nationalized, subsidized, or acquired at a massive premium by the desperate giants. Do not buy the green energy ETF. That is a basket of liabilities. Buy the companies that dig the grave for the old world. Rule number 4, assume zero delivery. If your business relies on a component that comes from China, assume it is gone. If your portfolio relies on the stability of the Eurozone, assume it is zero. The supply chains are being weaponized. The just-in-time economy is dead. We are now in the just-in-case economy, and just-in-case costs a lot more money. This is a raid. It is a raid on the physical assets of the planet. The United States is waking up to the fact that it has printed too much money and dug too few mines. Now, it is going to use its military leverage to correct that imbalance. It is ugly. It is brutal. It is necessary. The window to position yourself is closing. The smart money moved into these assets 6 months ago. The institutional money is moving in now. The retail crowd is still reading articles about how rude the president is being to Denmark. Do not be the retail crowd, be the archivist. See the history before it is written. The NATO alliance is not ending with a bang. It is ending with the sound of a drill bit hitting the permafrost in Greenland. Go to your pantry, count your calories. Tell me in the comments, what is the one item you cannot survive without if the ships stop tomorrow? If you don't have an answer, you are already a casualty. The insurance adjusters have left the building. This is archivist. The protocol is active.